Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always. What are we looking at today?
Well, this time, things are going to get a little spooky. We're exploring an article from thecollector.com about 10 terrifying mythological creatures from around the world.
Ooh, that sounds right up my alley.
So we're going to take a look at what makes these creatures from all these different mythologies so fascinating and maybe even a little creepy.
I love it. Mythological creatures are like a window into the cultures they come from,
I know exactly what you mean. So if you guys are into this kind of stuff, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And tell your friends. Let's dive right in. We'll start in Japan with a Joragumo.
Okay, the Joragumo.
So imagine like a spider that can transform into a beautiful woman.
And then?
Well, she uses her beauty to trap men. A classic femme fatale.
Oh, absolutely. It's that combination of beauty and danger.
Right.
It's a theme we see in mythology all over the world. It really speaks to our fears of the unknown, of being tricked by appearances. And it makes you think about how different cultures view female power and seduction.
Totally. Like you think you're meeting this amazing woman and then, bam, you're caught in her web. Literally.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
how about this? The Penanggalan from Malaysia.
I'm listening.
So picture a detached head.
Oh, detached head.
Yeah, but like its entrails are trailing behind it and it's flying around at night looking for victims.
That is a pretty gruesome image.
I know, right?
It makes you wonder what it says about the culture that created it. The Penanggalan is often connected with witchcraft and the idea of detached body parts having magical power.
That's so interesting.
It really shows how some cultures are fascinated with the darker side of magic. The potential for evil lurking just out of sight.
Spooky stuff. But hey, it wouldn't be a deep dive without a little bit of spookiness, right? So let's shift gears. How about we talk about monsters and where they come from?
Okay, I'm all ears.
First up is the Gashibukuro from Japan.
I've heard of this one, a giant skeleton, right?
You got it. But what's really wild is that it's made up of the bones of people who died without a proper burial.
So, like, their souls can't rest.
Exactly. And all that resentment, it fuels this monstrous form, makes it even more terrifying.
That's heavy stuff. It goes to show how important those rituals and beliefs about death and the afterlife are in Japanese culture. I mean, think about it. If those souls had been given peace, they wouldn't be roaming around as this giant, scary skeleton.
That is a chilling reminder to be respectful of the dead.
I agree.
Okay, now for something completely different. The Lamashtu. From Mesopotamian mythology.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, she's a demon goddess. Kind of a nightmare, really. Brings disease and misfortune.
Yeah.
And get this, she even steals babies.
Wow, she sounds terrifying.
Oh, she is. If you guys are liking this so far, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives like this one.
Absolutely.
Now, where were we? Yes, Lamashtu. So, she's really different from the Gashadakuro because she's not the result of something humans did wrong.
Oh, I see what you mean. She's not like a vengeful spirit.
Right. Instead, she's like a representation of the dark side of creation itself.
It's kind of like the belief that evil isn't just something humans do. It's like baked into existence itself.
That is pretty unsettling. Like, no matter what we do, there's always going to be that darkness lurking around.
Exactly. Gives you chills just thinking about it. Speaking of chills, let's move on to the theme of judgment and punishment. And for that, we got to talk about Ammit from Egyptian mythology.
Now, what does she look like? I love picturing these creatures.
Oh, you're not going to be disappointed. She's got the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus.
Whoa, real mix and match. I know, right? And her purpose is even wilder. She basically waits in the underworld, ready to gobble up the hearts of anyone who fails the test of the scales of justice.
So she's like the ultimate consequence.
Exactly.
It's a powerful reminder that our actions have consequences, not just in this life, but in the afterlife, too.
I'm definitely trying to stay on Ammit's good side.
Me too.
Okay, speaking of judgment, let's talk about Typhon from Greek mythology. He's this giant monster who actually challenged the gods.
Oh, wow. What was he like?
Well, picture hundreds of snake heads, fiery eyes, wings that stretch across the sky. The whole 9 yards.
He sounds like a force of nature.
Oh, he definitely was. He embodies chaos and destruction. Even the Olympian gods were challenged by him.
The Greeks really loved their stories about order and chaos.
They did. And you know what's even crazier? Typhon is actually the father of some other pretty famous monsters, like Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog of the underworld.
No way.
Yep. And the Hydra. You know, the multi-headed serpent that grows 2 heads back for every one you cut off.
Oh yeah, the Hydra. Now that's a creature that knows how to make a comeback.
Seriously. And it had poisonous breath, too. It took someone as strong and clever as Hercules to take that thing down.
It's amazing how these ancient myths still resonate with us today. Like, what do you think it is about these stories of monsters and heroes that we find so captivating? And if you have any thoughts on that, leave us a comment below. We'd love to hear your other opinions. And hey, while you're at it, don't forget to share this episode with your friends.
I think it's because these stories speak to something deep inside us. Like, we all have fears, right, and challenges we need to overcome. But these myths remind us that even in the face of something terrifying, there's always hope, and that we have the power within ourselves to be resilient and to overcome adversity.
I like that. It's like these stories give us a way to explore those dark parts of ourselves and to find the strength to face our fears head on.
Absolutely. And now, let's talk about the creatures that blur the lines between reality and the supernatural.
Like the mare from Norse mythology.
Oh, the mare.
Yeah. She's this demonic spirit that brings nightmares.
I've definitely had some nightmares that felt pretty demonic.
Right. And what's really scary about the mare is that she's said to make people feel like they can't move or speak even though they're awake.
That actually sounds a lot like sleep paralysis.
It does, doesn't it? That feeling of being totally aware of everything but being completely unable to move or make a sound. No wonder the mare is such a terrifying figure. It's a fear that's been around for centuries.
For sure. Okay, let's talk about another creature that plays on our fear of the dead, the Drugger.
The Drugger. Undead Viking warriors, right?
You got it. And they're not just like ghosts or spirits, they're like fully corporeal.
Right.
They're driven by this intense hunger for flesh and blood.
So basically they're like ancient zombies.
Pretty much.
It's interesting how that fear, the fear of the dead coming back to life, it's a theme we see in so many different cultures.
Totally. And you know what else is interesting? We've got the Banshee from Irish folklore. She's a harbinger of death, and she's known for her piercing wail.
The Banshee's scream is more than just a sound, though. It's a manifestation of the fear and dread that surrounds death itself.
Yeah, like even if you don't see her, you know death is coming because you hear that terrifying scream. It's definitely a potent reminder of our own mortality. What do you think about all these creatures? What makes them so scary, even today? Tell us in the comments. And hey, if you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives.
I think it's their ability to tap into our deepest, most primal fears, like the fear of the unknown, the fear of death, the fear of the things that go bump in the night.
I know what you mean. It's like these creatures give shape to our anxieties, making them feel more real.
Maybe by giving them a name and a face, we can feel like we have some control over them.
That's an interesting thought. But it's also fascinating how these creatures still have such a hold on us. Even in this modern world, we're still drawn to these stories.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Even with all our technology, I think there are still things we can't explain, things we don't understand. And these stories, they remind us that there are mysteries out there, forces we can't control.
It's like we're acknowledging that there are still shadows in the world, places where logic and reason don't quite reach.
Exactly.
And maybe that's part of the appeal,
Yeah.
These stories remind us that there's still magic and mystery in the world, even if it's wrapped up in a terrifying package. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear your other opinions.
There's something to be said for exploring the boundaries of what we know, grappling with the big questions about life and death, good and evil, and these myths give us a safe way to do that.
Exactly. So we've talked about shapeshifters, monsters with some really messed up origin stories, creatures who judge us, legendary beasts, and the undead. What stands out to you the most?
It's the idea that these creatures, as scary as they really are reflections of ourselves.
What do you mean?
I mean, they embody our fears, our hopes, and our struggles to understand the world.
They're like a mirror, reflecting back all those things we try to hide from.
Precisely. And maybe by facing these fears, even if it's through stories and myths, we can learn something about ourselves.
That's deep.
It is.
So even these terrifying creatures, they can teach us something about being human.
If we're willing to listen.
It really is amazing how these creatures, they come from our imaginations, but they tell us so much about ourselves. Which creatures stand out to you the most?
I think the ones that really get to me are the ones that play on our fear of the unknown, like the Draugr or the Banshee.
I get that. It's pretty unsettling to think that death might not be the end, that something might be waiting for us on the other side.
Exactly. It's that primal fear of what happens after we die. And those creatures, they give a face to that fear.
It makes it feel a lot more real.
It does. But there's also a strange comfort in that, I think. By naming our fears, by giving them a form, we can start to deal with them.
You mean like if we know what we're afraid of, we can figure out how to fight it?
Exactly. It gives us a sense of agency, even if we're dealing with something that's totally beyond our control.
I see what you mean. But these stories also remind us that we're not alone in our fears,
Yeah.
right? People have been telling these stories for centuries all over the world.
That's right. It's a universal human experience.
It's like we all have that same fear of the unknown, of what's lurking in the shadows. And it's kind of comforting to know that we're not alone in that.
I think so too. It's like a shared vulnerability.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From shape-shifting seducers to undead Viking warriors, we've really explored the creatures that haunt our imaginations. What's the biggest thing you're taking away from all this?
I think for me, it's realizing that even though these creatures are terrifying, they're also a reflection of who we are.
How so?
Well, they represent our deepest fears, our hopes, and our constant struggle to understand the world. Both the world we can see and the world we can't.
It's like they're holding up a mirror to us, showing us the things we try to hide from, our anxieties, our darkest thoughts.
Exactly. But it's also about our creativity. I mean, think about it. These creatures, they come from our imaginations. It's our way of trying to explain the things we don't understand. The mysteries of life and death, good and evil.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it that way. So the next time we hear a scary story or feel a chill down our spine, we should remember that there's more to it than just a good scare.
Exactly. These creatures offer us a glimpse into our shared humanity. They remind us that we're all in this together, trying to make sense of the world and grapple with our fears.
Well said. That brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of terrifying mythological creatures. We hope you enjoyed it, even if it got a little creepy at times. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more explorations like this, and share this episode with your friends who love a good dose of mythological chills. And remember, this was an AI podcast, so if you have any other opinions or want to delve deeper into these fascinating creatures, we encourage you to do your own research and explore further. There's a whole world of mythology out there just waiting to be discovered. Check out the Other Opinion channel for different perspectives.
And don't forget to leave a comment and tell us what you thought. Which creature resonated with you the most? What other terrifying tales would you like us to explore in future episodes?
We're always looking for new creatures to dive into. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and maybe sleep with the lights on tonight, just in case.